popping, Kyle? How you feeling this week?
I'm good. I am good. Another week of football. Can't complain. How are you?
I'm phenomenal. I feel great. I was on Coffee and Sports this morning, wire to wire last night, and I get to talk to you again this week. I'm so happy to have me and you back. I felt like our chemistry last week was great. I can't wait to build on that, talk more football with you. Really love your takes, man. And by the way, you absolutely killed it. You said you went 10-5 in your picks.
Yeah.
10. It's
Had a
not
good week.
bad, bro.
Yeah,
Not
had a
bad
good
in the
week.
NFL. You go 10-5. You're absolutely destroying it.
Yeah.
If you follow the TikTok or wire to wire, I've hit 8 straight games of my picks. We're on fire right now. So we got the takes. We watched this. We watched the sport. We're ready
Yep.
to rock and roll. So I'm gonna share this out if you don't mind to as many groups as possible so they can see us. And if you don't mind, get us started, man. Like, what game you want to get into first? You want to talk about the Thursday night game?
Yeah. I mean, that's the best place to start. Gets the NFL week started right. So I think it'd be an interesting matchup as well with it being Broncos, Colts, two teams that haven't really lived up to expectations so far. So I mean, tonight's a chance for one of them to maybe get right. We'll have to see. But I mean, at least with a quarterback battle, two guys that are known, former MVPs. Yeah,
Bro, am I the only one that like looks at that and like Broncos country? Let's cry because like watching how bad they've looked, like they're the worst 2-2 team I think I've ever seen in my life. Like they're terrible,
yeah,
bro. They're terrible. They
yeah.
won
They're
a
lucky
game
to be
versus
2-2.
San Fran. They have no business winning. They
Yep.
got dominated the whole game. Jimmy G ran out in the friggin' safety line.
Yeah.
They won a game. Would they win? They won another the game versus the Texans, who's like one of the worst teams in football. They lost to Seattle. They
Yep.
got beat by the 1-3 Raiders. Like, and we're expecting them to be 3.5-point favorites tonight. Why? Because their defense. Nathaniel Hackett is a clown, bro. Put a paint
Mm-hmm.
his face. Can't stand him. I don't think he's legit at all. But what are your thoughts on the game? Who do you think wins? And what are your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett? Frank Wright's in the hot seat, and Nathaniel Hackett first year in the position.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what coach loses their job quicker? Did either one of these coaches make it through the year? What are your thoughts?
So I think probably the thing working for Hackett is it's his first year. So I think the Broncos might give him the year to kind of figure it out. But if it becomes the year of the offense looking disjointed and low scoring, then yeah, he'll probably be gone because there's a lot of offensive minded coaches that are out there who are waiting for jobs. You know, there's always Bieniemy with Kansas City that every offseason they're trying to point him to every job. And imagine him with Russell Wilson in that offense. I mean, he could have a field day with them. You also have Sean Payton that's lingering out there. I guess he's kind of surveying everything to see whether or not he comes back or not. But I'm sure he'd probably jump at the opportunity with a Denver team like this. Frank Reich, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make it through the year only because the Colts for the past, ever since like Andrew Luck's been there, it seems like every year people have been picking them to make a Super Bowl run and it just hasn't happened. Now, of course, Andrew Luck retired sooner than anybody would have thought. But then, you know, they went with the Phillip Rivers thing. Everybody thought he was the guy to get him there. That didn't work. Carson Wentz was, you know, supposed to be.
Carson.
Well, I mean, Frank Reich was supposed to be the one to resurrect Carson Wentz's career. That didn't happen. And now you have Matt Ryan, where everybody thought, well, Matt Ryan's better than Carson Wentz. He's a veteran. He's been there. He's been in the Super Bowl already. He's got to be the guy. And it just hasn't looked right.
I think
So,
Matt Ryan's look worse than Carson Wentz.
yeah, I mean, especially in this offense, he does not look as good as Wentz did last year. Now, hopefully, Ryan, he did have a pretty decent game last week. Maybe he can build off of that. But yeah, so far hasn't been as advertised for Colts fans.
So I got a couple of things I want to point out. You touched on a lot of good points there, right? The first thing is you brought up Eric Bieniemy to replace Nathaniel Hackett, hopefully next year. Which is as much as I get my hopes up that these
Mm-hmm.
NFL owners and these GMs are going to start hiring African American coaches, every year I get I get let down. I get let down every year.
Right.
Brian Flores should be an NFL coach. Byron Leftwich should be an NFL coach. Uh, I mean, listen, I'll tell you one person, Jim Caldwell, completely gets swept under the rug. When he
Mhm.
did nothing but win in Indianapolis, he had one bad year when Peyton Manning had a neck issue. They
Right.
fired him there. He goes to Detroit. The last time they made the playoffs, they fired him for Matt Patricia, and they gave Matt Patricia more time. And Jim Caldwell made the playoffs with that team.
Right. Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in the NFL and their hiring of NFL coaches throughout the years. 28 coaches, 28 coaches are white.
Yep.
28. You
Yeah.
realize how like absurd that is in a league that's 67% African American? 28 out of 32 coaches are white.
Right. Yeah.
And like you end up like getting a pass with people like Robert Saleh. Like Robert Saleh, because he's not white. So like, but my point being is there's I think there's 2 African American coaches in the whole NFL right now. And
There's
that's embarrassing.
Tomlin
Tomlin
and
and
Bowles.
Lovie Smith.
The Lovie
Oh,
Smith.
now Todd Bowles got appointed head coach, so it
Right.
wasn't hired, but
Yeah.
that's 3. You're right. But it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing in the NFL. It really is. And as much as I would love to see someone like Eric Bieniemy get a chance, Brian Flores absolutely deserves a chance somewhere.
Yeah.
Jim Caldwell, I mean, Byron Leftwich. These are just 4. Deuce Staley, like he's been waiting in the wings for years.
Yeah. That's a good name. I forgot about Deuce Staley.
But they get passed up constantly. And Nathaniel Hackett felt like a hire to me that was we're trying to get Aaron Rodgers. And then they
Yeah.
failed on getting Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Then they went all in on a trade to get Russell Wilson and extended him because they were like, fuck, like a panic move. And Nathaniel Hackett is trying to take the system that Matt LaFleur used in Green Bay and turn Russell Wilson into Aaron Rodgers. And he's not that guy. He's just not that guy.
Right.
And I think the system won't work. And I think you lost your bell cow running back and Javonte Williams for the year. And everybody and their mother is on the Broncos tonight because of that defense. And I'm not. I'm just not. I think Frank Wright's the better coach. Frank Wright's got the shit end of the stick in Indianapolis. He had Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck ended up getting hurt and retired. Then he had Jacoby Brissett because they didn't realize Andrew Luck was going to retire for the entire year. Then he's had Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had them in every position to make a deep playoff run. They looked really good, and they blew the last 2 games of the season versus the Raiders, which was a good game, and then absolutely get destroyed by the Jaguars.
Yep.
And now they have Matt to fix their problems. A bullet hole. It's a bullet hole. You need to have a franchise quarterback to be successful in the NFL.
Right.
And these are just Band-Aids. These are just Band-Aids. Got to draft a quarterback. And Chris Ballard's going to end up getting fired over it. He's just Chris Ballard and Frank Wright are going to end up getting fired over it. When I think Frank Wright's a great NFL head coach. And I think that there's a reason Josh McDaniel almost took that job and turned it down. And I think it's because of people like Jim Irsay.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the same thing as well because we've seen Irsay over the years and the way that he's handled the Colts. And I also thought it was going to be weird for McDaniels to leave the Patriots staff, go to the Colts after Deflategate and how Irsay, talks about that all the time. So it would have been weird for him to work for him after that. But yeah, I agree. And like you said with the black coaches, I didn't even think about Byron Leftwich, which is crazy because I think he definitely deserves one. And if you follow the trend with some of these NFL teams where they like hiring guys off of staffs based off of quality quarterbacks, Leftwich has the GOAT Tom Brady. That should be good enough to get him one of these jobs. I mean, they keep hiring Aaron Rodgers coaches and stuff like that, but like you said, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
And they're going to keep hiring bad coaches, and they're going to get fired. You got a coach like Cliff Kingsbury that gets an extension down there in Arizona, who's one of the worst coaches in the NFL. And I will literally stand on that ground. Kyler Murray has literally gotten worse. He's gotten worse. And I don't care if he's coming off a win in Carolina. Carolina's not a good program either. But Matt Rule, it's another example. This guy's got 5 years, like in Carolina, to stink.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing right now? You got so many coaches that have proved to be successful coaches in the NFL, and we're just retreading some of these terrible coaches.
Right. And then some of these teams that like jump at these college guys because it's going to happen in the offseason. We'll be hearing about Lincoln Riley. We'll hear about Probably Jim Harbaugh again, flirting with the NFL, if not. And, you
Lincoln
know,
Riley is not leaving USC, man. I that's the cushiest job in the country right now is Lincoln Riley in USC. He's got
far.
that Southern California money. They're moving
Hmm.
to the Big Ten. He's got all the transfers, all the money he can use. He's going to make plenty of money. He's got a comfortable job. He's going to get plenty of recruits. That would be that would be like Nick Saban leaving Alabama. Why would you leave? Like,
Right.
why? Like, so
Yeah.
we can hear about Lincoln Riley all we want,
Hmm.
but like, I don't think there's a better job in America than a head coach of the USC Trojans in Southern California and with Lincoln Riley's staff and the way he sees things. I don't with all
Yeah.
those recruits, like what no, why would you ever leave all that
Right.
talent that comes from Southern California?
Hmm.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah. I mean,
that's
I doubt he would actually leave, but I know we'll hear his name brought up
yeah.
for whatever job is out there. And because they do that every year. Matt Rule was that guy until he finally got signed because they talk about, what did he come from? Like Baylor?
Baylor.
And yeah.
Matt Rule used to be the coach of the Temple Owls.
Okay.
Temple, and
Well,
then he got the job at Baylor and then went from Baylor to Carolina.
well,
I'm
I
a
mean, yeah,
Philly guy. That's
that's.
why I knew the Temple Owls thing and
Hmm.
Al Golden, and a lot of people went through Temple to get big jobs. But let's get into the game. What do you see? How do you see the game go? Most people, most of the public is on Denver tonight. Everybody's on Denver. The spread's 3.5. I'm just asking you to predict a winner. Don't worry about the spread. Who do you think wins the game? What do you think the score is?
I'm one of those. I'm actually on Denver, and that's hoping that, you know, Melvin Gordon doesn't have some late game fumble like he's prone to do each week. I mean, I was encouraged a little bit by Russell Wilson last week. He looked like he was getting a little bit better. Hopefully, he can find Judy and Sutton. It just move down the field with them. I would like to see them probably use Latavius Murray as a starter, but he just got there, so that'd be tough to ask. But I'm looking at it thinking Broncos probably win like 2016.
I'm gonna go with this one. Broncos country. Let's cry. I have the Indianapolis Colts with the upset, and I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than most Thursday nights. And it's funny because when you talk about like offenses that can't move the ball, good defenses, and you talk about that, and you really kind of like get into the crux of it,
Mm-hmm.
you think, all right, this game's definitely going to be the under, and the Broncos are going to win. And this is when the NFL surprises you. I think defensive touchdowns and bad field position constantly because of 3 and outs cause points to happen. I think
Right.
that this game ends up being a lot more high scoring than we expect it to be. I got a 27-21 Colts win, which is
Okay.
48 points, which would be well over the number.
Yeah.
But I got the Colts winning 27-21 tonight.
I mean, Matt Ryan threw for almost 400 last week. I mean, no Jonathan Taylor, but but
Hey,
he
listen,
was
if
he
they
was
have
kind
to
of
throw the
struggling
ball
anyway.
more, I think Frank Wright is going to spread them out, and I think he's going to have the ball come out of Matt Ryan's hand quickly. Short passes. Michael Pittman's probably going to have an off night because I'll tell you right now, the most hot commodity in the league right now is
Yep.
Patrick Surtain.
Yep.
You can't go anywhere without hearing. Darius Slay just said by the end of the year he'll be the best cornerback in football. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's a wild statement. Darius Slay just said that on a podcast recently. All right, let's move on to the London game and the
All right.
London Silly Nannies. I'm kidding. The New York Giants are traveling across the pond to take on the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers first game in London, first international game. They would never give up a home game. So when they moved to 17 games, this was the split game, 8-8,
Mm-hmm.
and the split in London. Because the Green Bay Packers, they own their franchise. The fans own their franchise. They're
Yep.
not giving away those 8 home games. First international game for the Packers. How do you see it? How do you see it going? I'm very clear on this one, man. This game is
Uh,
one of my picks this week, but go
mm-hmm.
ahead.
No, I mean, going into this game, Daniel Jones has the ankle injury. Got to see how he looks, and he's become a big part of the offense, both using his legs and occasionally throwing a pass or two. Barkley's looked good. I understand that, but if Daniel Jones is limited in his scrambling ability, that just gives Green Bay's defense more of a reason to just key in on Barkley. So I think they're going to struggle. I mean, I wasn't impressed by the Packers last week against New England. I mean, that game was way closer than it should have been. But I'll still take the Packers in this one, and I'll go. I go like 26-13.
Okay. I'm gonna be a little nuts here, and that's okay.
Okay.
The Daniel Jones injury, and he'll play,
Right.
but he's severely hampered to where he's not going to be moving the way he would like to move. They have 3 healthy receivers on the entire roster.
Okay. That's yeah.
They're absolutely light there. The Green Bay defense is actually a good defense, and they're very good at stopping the run.
Yep.
You'll see 8-man boxes all day. You'll make sure that the Giants do not run the ball at all. I think this one's an old-fashioned ass whooping. I got a 31-6 Green Bay. I don't think this game's close. I think they absolutely annihilate the Giants. I think Sunday morning, you're going to have your eggs, you're going to have your kegs, and you're going to have your blowout. Like you'll be, if you're a Giants fan, you'll be drunk by halftime.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones and Dylan should have. Well, Aaron Jones mainly should have a big game. I expect that, but yeah, I see that happen as well. And that'll be. I mean, compared to last week, the London game, which is really good. I mean, it's kind of sad to see this week it'll be not as competitive of a game.
I don't know how much I want to get into this. I hate doing this. I really do. I have no dog in that race, right? I'm not a Saints fan. I hate the Saints actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Vikings fan. I'm not a big Vikings fan either. I hate the Vikings fans. What they did in Philadelphia, dressing up the Rocky statue before the Eagles whooped ass in the NFC Championship game in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of Vikings fans, and then they cried about it. They're like, Philly fans were so mean to us. Like, because you dressed up the Rocky statue in Vikings gear, thought you were going to deface property in Philadelphia. You're not going to do that in the city.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. But I hate both franchises, right? So I have no dog and pony in that race. But I will say this. I don't know how much of that London game you watched, but the officiating in that game was brutal. And the Saints got hosed. Like, the PI was absolutely dog shit. There was phantom calls all over the field. It felt like the Zebras had money on, and I really believe this. I hate saying this, but I feel like some games are fixed in the NFL. I felt like the Zebras had money on the Vikings, and it was very clear how they wanted the game to end. They wanted the Vikings to win that game by 3, to not cover the spread, but to cover the money line. It was just very clear how they wanted it to end. And I seen that. Maybe I'm just nuts. Maybe I'm just being me. But I had no money on the game, and I just watched it with my own 2 eyes. Just, this is weird. I don't like the way this looks. A lot of really bad calls. But, yeah, hopefully this London game's a little bit better officiated. Let's move on to the 1 o'clock hour. First time in 35 years that the Steelers are 14-point underdogs or more in a game.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah, it's been a while.
14-point underdogs at Buffalo. That's a wild game. This is a trap game for Buffalo too. A lot of people don't realize this. Like when I break down football games, I look at not only who they're playing this week, but who they play next week, right? Like if you're looking forward to a game. You know, next week, Sunday Night Football is Buffalo at Kansas City.
I did not know that, but I can see why. Yeah, because for Buffalo, they're gonna be compared to Kansas City all season. So yeah, I can see that.
That's a trap game, bro. It's a trap game at 4:25. It's the CBS game of the week. I apologize, but it's the 4:25 primetime game for CBS. But it's an absolute, like, that's a trap game. I think Pittsburgh surprises some people. I think Kenny Pickett moves the football. I think George Pickens gets way more involved in the offense. Now they have the rookie quarterback in. I think this game's a lot closer than Buffalo would like it to be. I got the Buffalo Bills winning this one, but not as much of a blowout as the spread would indicate. Give me a Buffalo 30. Give me Pittsburgh 24. And the game ends on a late Kenny Pickett interception as he's trying to drive to take the lead.
I can see that as well. Because, Kenny Pickett brings the unknown. We don't know what he'll look like after having a full week with starter reps in practice. And I guess Tomlin and the coaching staff actually game planning for Pickett. We don't know what that's going to look like because, Pickett can do things that Trubisky just couldn't, which is why they made the switch. I am picking Buffalo in this one as well. I usually don't like seeing 14-point spreads. It's usually a little bit hairy to pick that. But I know we're just picking the score. But I do think it'll be closer than the 14. I was thinking like 30-20, and Pickett has a great showing. Lets people know like this is why he's going to be the future for Pittsburgh. And Pickens, he's really coming on. I've liked when I've gotten a chance to see Pittsburgh play. He looks like a really good wide receiver. He goes up, he gets the ball at his high point. He's a big guy too. I mean, he's a tough cover.
Bro, that
So
catch he made on the sideline, the one they compared to Odell Beckham Jr.'s, this
yeah,
kid looks like he's going to be special. And to match him up with Kenny Pickett, rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver, that connection could be a huge connection in Pittsburgh
yeah,
for years to come.
yeah.
I
And
don't think
Harris,
I don't know how to. I really just nice way to put it, right? I don't know how to say it in the nicest way possible, but I think Buffalo overlooks this game a ton, and I think it's a lot closer than it should be. Mike Tomlin's a very good football coach.
mm-hmm.
I don't think he allows his team to just get dog walked like that.
Yeah, he'll definitely have them ready. That's for sure. Oh, and also, what's up, Key?
Key in the building. What's up, Key? I love that her name is Key in the building because
Yeah.
like whenever she come in the building, I'm like Key in the building. I like it. Um, But next game on the docket, we got the Cleveland Browns versus the Los Angeles Chargers in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember this game last year. What's up, Keith? Keith Saringer's buddy of mine. Love that guy. But
What's going on?
the Chargers are at the Browns. I don't remember if you remember that game 2 years ago. I'm sorry. It was like they ran up and down the field. It might have been last year actually. It was like a 52-45 game. It was absolutely insane. It was
Okay,
in
yeah.
LA.
I remember that scoreline. Yep.
Just went back and forth, back and forth. But I think this year's a lot different, right? You lose no Joey Bosa on the
Mm-hmm.
Chargers. I think that the Browns are going to slow this game down. I think they're going to take the air out of the football. I think they're going to run the ball, and I think this is going to be a lot closer game than Justin Herbert would like it to be. Cleveland's defense is a lot better at home than they are on the road, and I truly believe that the Browns have a huge opportunity to upset the Chargers, who are very hurt. Keenan Allen still dinged up, hamstring issue. He might come back, he might not. Mike Williams is their number one wide receiver right now. He's hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Browns have Denzel Ward, who's a lockdown corner that's physical, that can match up with Mike Williams. I think this is an ugly game, and I really believe that the Browns run the ball and run the ball effectively all game and keep this game really close. Muck and grind. It might be a 20-17, 21-20 game. Very, very close. I'll say the Chargers get out of there with the skin in their teeth, 21-20.
I agree with all those points because I feel the same way. That's like Cleveland's, MO this season. You got Chubb, you got Hunt. You feed those guys, you let them work. Brissett, all you need Brissett to do, no stupid turnovers. Make a couple plays with your legs if you can to not take any stupid sacks or anything like that. But yeah, that defense is probably better than maybe some people think. And I know, Herbert played well last week, but I mean, rib injuries are still a worry for me. I mean, Eckler hasn't really been, as good as I think he's been past years. He's getting a little
Last
bit more.
week he was good. He had 3 touchdowns, but
Yeah, he's got a little bit more involved last week, so that's something that they'll probably try to exploit this week. But I actually think the Browns pull the upset here.
And I wouldn't be against that. Like, this is a game I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole if I was betting. Like, this is a game I could see going either way. Like, I don't see any team running away with this one. I just don't.
Right.
And the Chargers have not looked good, man. They look good losing to the Chiefs. And I felt like after that game that they lost to the Chiefs, they just, the Jaguars kicked the shit out of them. And then last week they almost let up one of the worst comebacks to the Texans. The Texans almost came back and beat them. I don't think the Chargers have looked good, and I don't expect them to go into Cleveland, go into the doghouse,
right?
Dog pound. I don't expect it. I just really don't. I think it's a close game, and I really think it's going to be a one possession game, and I could see that upset. I
Yeah.
could see the Cade York 54-yard walk-off field goal for
Yeah, I
the
was about to say
Cleveland
because
Browns.
I think Cleveland probably wins like 23-21.
So I had a
Quarterbacks.
21-20, and then what you're basically saying is that the Browns go down on that and Cade York hits the walk-off field goal.
Yeah,
Twenty-three
that's what I was thinking in my
twenty-one.
mind is
There
yeah,
you
late
go.
field goal. Oh, Keith has late field goal as well, 27-24 Browns.
I could see it, Keith. I really could. This is a game I didn't think we'd be talking about. Here, this is fun, right? The Texans and Jaguars, and I don't know if you remember this last year. Everyone thought the Jaguars would win. You had Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence starting his first NFL game. Jaguars were, I think, they were 5.5 point home favorites versus the Texans week 1, and the Texans dog walk them.
Mm-hmm.
Dog walk them, right? Like
Yep.
they just beat the crap out of them. This little different year this year with Doug EP, but there's
Yep.
something about, like, you know how the Jaguars own the Colts in Jacksonville? There's
Yep.
something about Houston owning Jacksonville, bro. They just do. And like Houston could win 2 games and they would be both versus Jacksonville.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know, but it's just like one of those ugly, schematically different games. And it's like you got it deeply ingrained in the locker room that the Houston guys feel like we can beat up on these Jacksonville Jaguars. That spread of 7 points is absurd. I
Mm-hmm.
love what Doug EP and Trevor Lawrence have done so far this year. But I'm telling you right now, bro, I would not, if I had a bet in this game, I would definitely take the Texans +7. I think this is a close game. I think Doug Peterson gets them to win. I think this is a coach win right here. I'll go 21-17 Jaguars in another low scoring game.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is a game where, we know that last season, them losing that game was kind of a like foreshadowing the issues that Urban Meyer had in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson definitely is doing a better job already this season than Meyer did last year.
He already has as many wins.
Right. And I think that this is a game where if Jacksonville is serious about being contenders for the AFC South, because I think we've talked about on here that you look at that division, the Jaguars could easily win that division. And this is kind of a statement game for them. This is a game where they're going in, they're supposed to be better than the Texans. And if you want to play big boy football in the playoffs, these are games you have to win on your schedule. So I think they do get it done. I know the 7-point spread is big, especially for a Jacksonville team that hasn't really, I guess, proven anything yet. And with the history they have against the Texans, I think it's going to be. I like Dameon Pierce for the Texans. He's a good young running back. So I think hopefully they get him involved in this one. So
both teams need to run the football, Kyle. Both teams need to run the football. Both teams get away from the run way too easy. You know what's crazy? The Texans ran the ball to get all the way back in that game versus the Chargers, and then Davis Mills turned the ball over twice the last 2 drives.
Yeah,
throwing the ball, strip sack fumble. I agree with you. I'm with you. Go ahead. I'll let you finish. My bad.
No, I was just saying that this is an era where people just like to spread it out and throw the ball. With young quarterbacks like this, if you have an established running back, that's the quarterback's best friend. They can take pressure off of them and all that. So hopefully the Texans, use Pierce, and then Lawrence, he has Etienne. Maybe this is a game where Etienne has an Etienne type of game and people like, oh, okay, there we go. But I'm gonna go the Jaguars. I'll go 26-20. So the Texans, barely cover, but yeah, Jacksonville gets the win. And Jacksonville needs this win for, morale and thinking that they could win the division.
I got to really give James Robinson his roses, man. You want to talk about a guy that's literally been undrafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walks in, takes the job 3 years ago, looks great. They draft Travis Etienne last year. Urban Meyer drafts Travis Etienne 28. He has a Liz Frank injury. He's supposed to be the starting running back, and Urban Meyer treats him like shit the entire year. Doesn't give him his due. Brings Carlos Hyde in. He looks terrible. James Robinson takes the starting running back role back. And then he gets hurt. Comes into this year early. I think it was an Achilles tear or ACL. I believe it was an Achilles tear for James Robinson last year, but it could be ACL. I could be wrong. Comes in this year, not supposed to start the season. Doesn't play a lot of preseason. Travis Etienne looks awful versus Washington. Like the ring rust is terrible. Like got smoked, fumbled the ball, dropped the touchdown pass. James Robinson cements the job again and takes it back. Let James Robinson be a starting running back in this league for once, man.
Yeah.
I like Travis Etienne too, man. I liked him at Clemson. But James Robinson has earned this job, and Doug Peterson has been allowing him to earn and keep that job. Etienne's got a long career ahead of him, man. He's a running back. Keep the tread on the tires, but let the veteran that knows what he's doing, James Robinson, that dog that's always been counted out, undrafted, backup running back to start the year. They trade Leonard Fournette. He gets the starting job that year. You draft another guy in the first round of the draft, Travis Etienne. You know what? James Robinson, your job's over now. Nope. I'm going to come back. I'm going to play. Carlos Hyde's taking the job. He gets hurt, comes back again, and earns that job. Man, let me give James Robinson all the credit in the world, man. Just want to give him credit.
No, I agree. I mean, at worst, you can just use, Etienne as a change of pace back.
Yeah.
Coming on third downs because he's a pass catching threat. But yeah, I agree. James Robinson deserves all the opportunities this season.
I've seen a mock draft recently, right? There's a mock draft recently that did top 10 picks, and they had the Bears having the fifth or sixth pick and taking Bryce Young at quarterback. I think that's a huge mistake, and I kind of want to bring this up because I think that it's actually embarrassing that the Chicago fans are getting on Justin Fields like he is the problem.
Yep.
Out of 32 teams in the NFL, Kyle, how many teams have better receiving cores than the Chicago Bears?
At this point, it's probably all of them.
30,
probably
31.
about all of them, yeah.
How many, PFF ranks offensive lines? You know the Bears ranked 30th in PFF offensive line this year?
I didn't know that number, but I mean, you watch 5 minutes of Bears football and you can see it's right there in front of you, yeah.
So the Bears have one of the worst offensive lines and one of the worst receiving cores in the NFL, and it's Justin Fields' fault. You want to talk about an organization that just completely drops the ball year after year after year. They gave up everything to get Mitch Trubisky, to move up one pick. San Francisco fleeced them to get Mitch Trubisky, right? They got Mitch Trubisky. Terrible. Then Mitch isn't the answer. We're going to trade for Nick Foles. Nick Foles isn't the answer. We're going to pay Andy Dalton.
Yep.
And they're still paying some of these guys, man. Nick Foles is paid this year from the Bears.
Yep.
It's an embarrassing franchise. And I hate that Justin Fields is getting the critique for this.
Yep.
There's a stat that came out from a clean pocket. Justin Fields is completing at a 67% rate with a 104 quarterback rating. Most of his work is done in a dirty pocket. And still, the Bears are hanging on. They're not awful. They're 2-2 on the season. And they play against the Vikings this week, who are 3-1. What are your thoughts on this game? I really it's in Minnesota. It's a 7-point spread. I think Minnesota will win the football game, division game. But I'm just tired of the Justin Fields hate for no reason at all other than the Bears are an awful organization.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm on the Vikings as well, but I think what you're, talking about with the Bears, that's what losing organizations will do. They'll take a guy, automatically, switch off of him, bring in another guy. Like if you have the same offensive line and the same offensive weapons, what's Bryce Young supposed to do there that Justin Fields can't do? So if the Bears were smart, you would do what most normal teams would do. You have Justin Fields, you use this year to evaluate, the wide receiver, running back position, what you need. You go into next season's draft, you get like an anchor on the offensive line, start there. Because Fields should be the guy that you want to protect at all costs because he's supposed to be there for the next at least 5 years until
They
another
have
contract
over
or whatever.
$100 million in cap space next year.
Right.
100 million. They can sign an entire offensive line,
Yeah.
2-star receivers. Like they can do a lot next year. And they still didn't pay Roquan Smith, who's an absolute stud.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that organization just never ceases to amaze me. To me, they're the second worst organization in the entire NFL. And the worst organization to me is Miami. We'll get into them in a minute. I
Yeah.
have a rant above rant on the Miami Dolphins and Stephen Ross, but I think that's an absolute joke. It's a travesty. I'm going to go quick on this one for sake of time. I got the Vikings winning this one 31-17.
Yeah. I had, Vikings, I'd say 27-17.
Being that we just brought it up, I want to talk about the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are playing this week versus the New York Jets. I believe the game is in New York. Yes, it is in New York. The 3-1 Miami Dolphins versus the 2-2 New York Jets. The game is in New York. But I want to talk about. Screw the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for the Jets. Go Jets. Jets win. I'm gonna predict the Jets win that game 27-20. And none against Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't care. I don't care about the game. I care about what happened with Tua. I'm not a Tua fan. Never been a Tua fan.
Right.
I think he's not a good quarterback. I think his ankles are sharp and soft. He constantly rolls his ankles. I think he's an inaccurate passer, not inaccurate. Doesn't have the arm talent to be an NFL quarterback. I really just don't believe in him. I don't care. I like Tua as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very hard not to like him as a human being. Everyone and their mother knew that this kid had a concussion versus Buffalo. He got smoked, got up, stumbled. They took him off the field. Some independent neurologist did some shoddy job and said, nope, it's a shoulder injury, shoulder and back. That's why he fell. Let him back in the football game. They didn't take the time to evaluate a full concussion protocol during the week, and he played on an early week on Thursday night, and he seized after taking another hit to the head.
Yeah.
He seized. His hand seized.
Mm-hmm.
We all watched it last Thursday night. I was sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And this is the same organization that tried to pay Brian Flores to lose, that tried to tamper and get Tom Brady and then Sean Payton,
Mm-hmm.
that fired Brian Flores because he wouldn't toe the line and break NFL rules and protocol, in which a lawsuit he's going to win. The Miami Dolphins have already lost a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick and $1 million due to the investigations. And then they do this with the concussion with Tua. They set back NFL safety regulations 10 to 15 years. And it's and somebody needs to be fired. I pray that Tua retires and he gets $100 million severance from the NFL. I pray that this kid doesn't play another down of football, because the CTE expert that did that was basically about the movie Concussion said this kid should retire. He should never play football again, or he's going to have a lot of health issues for the rest of his life. And I genuinely feel bad for him as a human being, because he's a great human being. Anything you read about Tua, he's a great person, student of the game. This isn't right, man. This isn't right.
Yeah.
I put it on the coaches. I put it on the general manager. I put it on the ownership. I put it on everybody. I really do. Tua's a warrior, man. He's a warrior. He's going to want to get on the field. The reason that these independent neurologists, these coaches, are in the positions they are is because they need to protect the players. And that is not protecting the players. This organization's cut corners from everywhere, every offense, any way they can to cheat the rules. And Roger Goodell needs to put his foot down and be able to clean up that Miami Dolphins organization. A once great organization with Dan Marino has turned into this slop, paying Tyreek Hill, who's another awful human being, $30 million. It's just they don't care. They don't care about your morals. They don't care about who you are as a person. They don't care about your health. They just care about making money and making revenue and winning football games. And
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I watched that last week. It was sickening.
yeah. I mean, it almost seems like because you know the Dolphins are having some type of success this year that they were willing to put two out there just because they didn't want to possibly lose a game. We saw what was a couple of years ago when Daniel Jones took a hit to the head and he stumbled around. I remember Troy Aikman and all them were like, "Oh no, you don't want to see that." That clearly looked like a concussion. We saw the same thing with Tua. Everybody who watched it was like, "That's a concussion. He hit his head." And then for them to be like, "No, it was his back. It was hurting, and that's why he was stumbling." It's like we're not dumb. We understand what's going on here. And then now to fast forward to the point where they may have ruined his career just because they were looking to win a divisional game, or well, let's see, the Thursday night game was with the Bengals, but they were looking to win another game because they were having a good start to the season. And yeah,
I
I mean,
think the damage was done during the game versus Buffalo because once you allow him to come back in the game and say
mhm,
he didn't have a concussion, you almost had to start him Thursday.
true.
Let me just kind of like reiterate my thought process here, right? I think, yeah, and Keith
Yeah,
put it perfectly, ruined his
yep,
life. Um, I think that once they made the decision to let him come back in the game versus Buffalo, that they had no choice on what they were going to do Thursday night. They couldn't go back. I'm like, oh no, he did have a concussion. We just wanted to win the football game because that's
that's true.
admitting
Yep,
guilt. And then they
yeah,
have to, then they're stuck. Like that web of lies, right? You make one lie, and you got to make another lie and make another
mhm,
lie. Um, it, it's embarrassing, man. I'm sick to my stomach that I watched that.
yeah. And
Yeah,
then I mean, I just saw with the Patriots, when Hoyer took the hit to the head, he walked to the back. They automatically said he was out. They put him on injury reserve because the NFL put that in there. Give guys a couple of weeks because with these concussions, it takes some time to get back to feeling. I
yeah,
mean, you may think you're good to go, but you don't want to mess around with your brain and all that.
bro.
That's
I've had concussions before. I played
I have
sports.
as well. Yeah.
I got my bell rung, and I'll tell you a quick story. It's a really funny story. But I was playing safety for North Catholic high school football, and we had a design cornerback blitz. It was like a safety blitz from the blind side of the quarterback. And in the first quarter, we ran it. I got the strip sack fumble. I felt like $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Father Judge, another Catholic school team, had an all Catholic left tackle by the name of Ed Rogers. This dude hit me so hard on the second time we ran that play. It was the DN would cut in, the left tackle would normally move with the DN. I would come around the outside as if I was lined up on a slot receiver or like on the outside.
Hmm.
I was lined up against a slot or tight end. And I thought I had a clear path at the quarterback again. And I got hit so hard from the side. I had no idea what was happening. I seen stars. I had headaches. I was vomiting. I had a concussion, bro. I got
Yeah.
smoked. Smoked. I was sick for a week. My coach wouldn't let me play for 2 weeks. And this was, you're talking about 18, 19 years ago
Yeah.
when safety regulations weren't as strong as they are now.
Hmm.
And I get it, I was in high school. I'm not an NFL player, but gotta have
But I mean,
some care for a person's life.
right. That's the organization's job. Is yeah. Every athlete would be like, yeah, I'm fine to go. It's nothing. But you're supposed to be the one to be like, there's more important things. You know, sure, we'd love to win Thursday night, but we're looking long term. So we'll dial it back a little bit and we'll just go from there. I mean, it's crazy. And with all of the attention that's been put on concussions with the NFL, for Miami to think like this was cool to do, that's even worse to me. That makes them look even that more, irresponsible in this whole thing. I mean, they've already, I guess, changed the policy with the, spotters and all that. But there's gonna be a lot more firings coming down the line and all that kind of
Good.
stuff. Yeah, I mean
These
that's the
people
way it should
deserve to
be.
lose their job. If they want to win
Yeah,
a football game over someone's safety and livelihood, good.
yeah,
Lose your job, man. If I want to make money at the company I work at and I want to do fraudulent sales, I should lose my job, right?
yeah. And plus, how are the other Dolphins players supposed to feel if they're in that situation. They can't be
Exactly.
feel secure thinking that the team's going to have their back as well.
All right, we gotta move on.
Yep.
We got a couple more crap games at 1 o'clock, but we'll get into each one of them. Lions Patriots. I know you're a Patriots fan, so I don't want to take this one away from you. Bailey
Mhm.
Zappi, man, came in last
Yeah.
week, looked really good.
Mhm.
Western Kentucky Hilltopper came in, looked really good. Now you got Detroit, who's still hurt. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to play. DeAndre
Mhm.
Swift will not play. Coming into New England with Bill Belichick and that defense. What do you think this one? I think the Patriots win the football game. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I think, yeah, like you said, Zappy looked great last week, considering being a third string guy, and you get thrust into action to play at Lambeau Field. And I think when he went in there, they were going from the loud end of the stadium down to the other end, and he looked like, he was a little shaky at first. I didn't understand why Romo kept talking about, he looked nervous out there. The more Zappy played, he looked like he almost looked
Comfortable,
like a
man.
veteran quarterback by the end of the game. I mean, that pass he threw to Devontae Parker over the middle, like that was a great touch pass. So I expect to see more of that. I mean, the Lions are coming off giving up 48 to the Seahawks. So, um,
That
but I think,
defense is bleeding, man.
yeah,
I
and I
I
think,
watched a lot of Hard Knocks, and the one thing I picked up off of Hard Knocks more than anything is Aaron Glenn is not a defensive coordinator.
yeah,
He just isn't. And like I picked it up watching it. The offense was clearly beating them in practice every single day. I think that Dan Campbell wanted to hire a lot of ex players to be on his coaching staff, but I felt like schematically he should did the same thing he did with his offense and hired a coach that understands the scheme of defense
right,
rather than hire a player that is just trying to be tough.
yeah, those guys you can say for like position coaches, but
Correct. Yeah. Make
like
him your
Keith
secondary
says,
coach.
yeah, like Keith said, I expect Harris and Stevenson to be featured in this game. You know, I know the Lions have, was it Hutchinson and all that on their defensive line,
Aiden.
but yeah, but yeah, I think Patriots win this one. I'll go 24. I'm gonna give the Lions a little credit, maybe 17.
I'm right there with you, man. I have 27-21. I think the Patriots win that one 27-21. We got a couple more. Seattle at New Orleans. Looks like Michael Thomas will not play. Alvin Kamara will play.
Mm-hmm.
Jameis Winston is truly a game time decision. I don't care. I think New Orleans at home is a win. I think it's a W. I think their defense will beat up on Geno Smith, who I don't think that the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith are really that good. They beat up a Detroit team that is letting up 25 plus points to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they beat a really bad Broncos team.
Yep.
They got destroyed by the 49ers. They got beat by Atlanta at home. I think this is a bad game for Seattle, and I think that defense really eats this week. Whether it's Andy Dalton, whether it's Jameis Winston, one thing I can guarantee you is that defense scores a touchdown this week. I'll take the Saints in this one in a really ugly one, 21-6.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Saints in this as well. I think whether it's Winston or Dalton looked pretty good against the Vikings, So, they should feel comfortable either way. If Winston isn't fully ready to go, I'd say start Dalton and they'll be fine either way against Seattle. I'd go, yeah, I'd probably go like 28-10, if that, for the Seattle.
I could see that 100%. I could see that. I think that the Saints win this one clearly. Next game on the docket, we got the Titans at the Commanders. I'd like you to go first on that one because I have a surprising pick on this one.
So for me, I actually think the Commanders could win this game. Um, I'm not, I'm not on the Tannehill bandwagon. I've stated several times, different places that, Derrick Henry is like their only offensive weapon that you should really worry about. And he's getting close to that 30-year-old line. And we know how that goes for running backs. But, I just think with the Washington defensive line, hopefully they'll be able to contain Henry enough where you can, keep some guys out in coverage, and have some blitz packages to really confuse Tannehill. And then all you need is for Wentz not to turn the ball over. I mean,
Yo,
you got
that is
scary Terry.
literally that is literally the MO of this game. Is
Yeah,
if Wentz turns the ball over less than 2 times this game, I think Washington wins it. I really
yep,
believe that. Um, Wentz gets benched, Commanders win. I'd be all right with that too.
yeah,
I think the Commanders win the football game. This is an ugly game for the Titans. The Titans coming off a division win. This is a typical letdown game. This also is the game before the Titans bye week with a lot of injuries. They're probably going to sit Treylon Burks out. Anybody that's like kind of on the fence of recovery, they won't play this week because they get the extra week next week with the bye week. This is a getaway game for Tennessee. I really believe that. I think the Commanders need this win. They're 1-3. They feel their season is slipping away. I think this is a Commanders victory. I really
yeah,
believe that. I just the only way you lose this game is Wentz gives it away.
right, yeah,
And Ron Rivera's got to know that going in this one. Ron Rivera's got to hand the ball off and have a conservative game plan for this one. He has to know that.
yeah,
I think the Commanders win the football game. I love their receiving core too, man. I really do. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and my man Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, who's catching everything thrown near him.
yeah,
I love their receiving core. I think that the biggest benefit to the Titans is their run game. I think Washington's thing they do best is their defensive line. I think that matches up well. I think you won't have to worry about much as far as the passing game goes, where Washington really does struggle because we're talking about Bobby Trees and Westbrook Akrini. Like I
yeah,
don't worry about that, right? I don't worry about that at all.
right, yeah. Like I said, completely agree. Washington should get this win as long as Wentz is careful with the ball. Simple.
Agreed. All right, so a couple more on the docket on the 1 o'clock hour, and then we'll get into the 4 o'clock, the prime time games. I promise you, we'll get you done before the Thursday night game starts, just like we did last week.
Yep.
Falcons at Buccaneers. This is I'll start with this one because I think this is one of my home run picks this week, right? I think I think Tom Brady's tired of hearing of his divorce.
Mm-hmm.
There's one team that's undefeated against the spread all year. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They're 4-0 against the spread. They become 4-1 this week as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers unleash every bit of hell on the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta lost Cordell Patterson. They haven't been able to get Kyle Pitts involved. I think Tampa Bay runs away with this one. I think it's a 35-13 win for Tampa. I don't think it's close. I like Tampa big in this one.
Yep, I do as well. And I mean, I'm in the Atlanta area, so I've been hearing, a lot of Falcons fans have been encouraged by their 2-2 start. But if there's one person that we know can handle the outside noise and all that, it's Tom Brady. And usually when stuff like that happens, he becomes very motivated on the field.
Agreed.
He's got Mike Evans, Godwin. Those guys are slowly getting back to, their normal self. But yeah, Brady's going to use this game. He kind of feels his way through the first couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. But now we've turned the calendar to October. I think he's going to start looking like the old Tom Brady that we know. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a blowout for the Bucs. I'd go, probably 35-16.
I like it. I said 35-13, so we're close.
Yeah.
We get to the 4 o'clock hour, right? The San Francisco 49ers traveling to the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, with that one, it's going to be a question of, Deebo Samuel. What does Carolina do for Deebo Samuel? Because he's clearly their most explosive weapon. And I know Gilmore is, the corner that's supposed to, lock down or whatever, but Gilmore hasn't really worked.
Gilmore's in Indianapolis, bro.
Oh, yeah. My fault. I don't know why I was thinking about Gilmore. Probably because we talked about Indianapolis before and I want to talk, but
You're talking about J.C. Horn.
Well, yeah, but also Gilmore was in Carolina.
Yeah, it was there last year.
Yeah. But yeah, so J.C. Horn will probably, I guess, be tasked with trying to keep up with Deebo Samuel. But, I mean, the way that he gets used, whether it's the backfield, split out wide, gadget reverses and all that. Right now, especially the way that he looked against the Rams, where I mean, he was making plays all over the field. Jimmy G is steady enough to at least give them opportunities to win games. But I'd go with the Niners in this one because I mean I'm just not there with Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey and all that right now. So I'd go Niners probably
Okay.
27-19.
So Matt Rule is 1-21 against opponents when they score 17 points or more.
Okay.
1-21. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
In the NFL, there's the 32nd ranked quarterback with quarterback rating that started all 4 games this year. Baker Mayfield. Number one defense in the league, San Francisco 49ers.
Yep.
This looks like it could be a train wreck. Normally, when it looks like a train wreck, you'll find me on the other side, and I'm gonna explain to you why. I like the Panthers in this one. I don't know if they win the game, but I think it's a 3-point game one way or the other.
Okay.
The San Francisco 49ers played the division rival on Monday Night Football in San Francisco. They played the Rams. Then they have to travel across the country on a short week and play at Carolina. Now, it's not a 1 o'clock game, which helps them a ton. It's a 4 o'clock game, so it kind of gets them a little bit more accustomed to the time. But teams coming off a win on a short week, traveling more than half the country, first in teams that have a loss, coming off a loss without covering, that did not play on a short week. The team that came off the loss is hitting at 87% in the NFL. That is a staggering number. A staggering number.
Definitely a stat you'd have to pay attention to, yeah.
I think for whatever reason, just like I predicted them a couple weeks ago to beat the Saints, I predicted both their wins. Well, one of their wins, and I think this will be their second. I think the Carolina Panthers get it together for at least one game. I think Matt Rule saves his job for just at least one more week. And I think for whatever reason, the Carolina Panthers get out of Dodge with a win. And I think it's 17-16 Carolina.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best recipe.
I picked 16 intentionally because I know Matt Rule's record when they had 17 points or more. So 17-16. All right.
Okay.
Couple 4 o'clock games to get into that are big primetime games. Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't know how big of a baseball fan you are, Kyle, but the Philadelphia Phillies are taking on the St. Louis Cardinals this weekend.
Yep.
And in Philadelphia, we're talking about Philly killing Cardinals this week. This is what we're talking about. We got Cardinals in baseball, Cardinals in football. Jalen Hurts had a press conference. I don't know if you've seen this. This is actually really entertaining to me, where they asked him about everything. They asked him about his interview with the Mannings. They asked him about his previous game. They asked him about the coaching staff. But the one question they didn't ask him about was about his upcoming opponent, the Arizona Cardinals. At the end of the press conference, Jalen Hurts goes, you guys didn't ask me one time about the Arizona Cardinals. They're very quick. They're a very good team. They're a very quick defense. And this is not a game to look past. They're a very good football team, and we're going into their house. They've been good for years. They're super talented. They got a great defensive line. Like literally just gave them compliments for like 3 minutes. I love hearing that out of QB1, man. I really do, man. The guy's got a great head on his shoulders. The Philadelphia Eagles moved to 5-0, going into Arizona and taking down Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep. I completely agree. And, it's kind of a page out of Belichick's book. You ask Belichick about any opponent they go up against, and he'll rattle off random guys to compliment the other team. Because I know the one that went viral was I think they asked him about the Rams one year, and he talked about Hecker, the punter, for 2 minutes straight, just singing his praise. So yeah, it's definitely what you want to hear from your starting quarterback. Wentz and that Eagles team, they just look different this year.
Just say Wentz. Don't be saying Wentz.
Not Wentz. Oh my god, I did
Hurts,
say
baby.
Wentz.
Hurts.
Hurts. Yeah, my
It
mind's
hurts when you say
Hurts.
Wentz in Philadelphia.
I know that's my bad. But yeah, Hurts and that offense. They look like a team on a mission this season, and Hurts has had so much improvement in his game. I'm appreciating watching him do well in Philly because I'm a big fan of his as well. And yeah, I agree. They go to 5-0 Sunday, and I have no questions about it. I'd probably say I'm gonna go 33-20.
I don't predict my team scores. It's a superstition I have. I just
I
say the
got you.
Eagles win the football game. I don't want to say they win by 1 point. I say that all the time. They win by one.
Okay.
Whatever. I don't look past any opponents because I know how the NFL is, and just want the Eagles to come out there victorious and get a win. That's all I want. Next week, the Eagles have the Cowboys. This could easily be a trap game for them, going across country to play against Arizona in a trap game. I just think Jalen Hurts has these guys' heads on straight. Speaking of the Cowboys are going into Los Angeles. Los Angeles coming off a loss. Cowboys coming off a win at home, have to travel to LA. I think this is exactly what I said it was earlier. I think the Rams kicked the shit out of Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. I don't think this game's close. I really think that all this 4-0 talk of Cooper Rush, I think it all gets put to rest, and I think Dak Prescott comes back next week for the Eagles game. I really see the Rams with the get right game. I don't see their offense moving the ball that well, but I see their defense really taking a step forward, and I think they shut down the Cowboys in every aspect of the football game.
All right, so this is a game that I was looking at, and I have some weird feeling that the Cowboys get the upset here, which will probably be the worst thing because Cowboys fans will probably, be planning parade routes and all that because of that. But
there's nothing worse than a Cowboys fan.
I mean, it's brutal.
Nothing worse.
I mean, I give them credit. They stand behind their team.
No, they don't. No,
I'm just saying, like
when
they always
those cockroaches go hiding.
Well, I'm just saying, at least to start the year, they think every year is their Super Bowl year, and then a couple of weeks in, they want to trade everybody and fire every coach. So yeah, but I only because I'm just not impressed with Matt Stafford and that Rams offense until he starts giving the ball to Allen Robinson. I'll probably keep picking against them because I just can't understand what's going on offensively, what McVay needs to do to get him, get plays drawn up for him or what. I just don't get it. How he can feel comfortable throwing to a guy named Skoranek over Allen Robinson. Like Cooper Kupp, I get it. I mean, Cooper Kupp set like the record for, catches last season. I understand if he's your number one guy you look at, but Allen Robinson put up numbers with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. The guy knows how to get open. And if Stafford can't find him, I don't know what to say about that. So because of that,
I feel you. I don't think their offense gets right. I think the Cowboys defense keeps it close. I just think Cooper Rush has a couple interceptions. I think the Dallas defense, I think the Rams defense is suffocating, and I think that they pull away in this one. I really do. I really just genuinely feel it. Which will be bad news for the Eagles because then the Eagles will be like a 7-point favorite at home, Dak Prescott's return, and then it will be like one of those really ugly division games I don't want to talk about. But let's see what happens before we predict Eagles Cowboys because there's nothing I hate more than the Cowboys. And the Cowboys win this game. It's like the greatest thing ever for an Eagles fan, right? They come in after an emotional high. They come into Philadelphia and we kick the shit out of them because that's essentially how things work in the NFL. But 2 divisional primetime games. Sunday night and Monday night. I love these games.
Yep.
Sunday night football, Joe Burrow, who threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns versus the Baltimore Ravens last year, goes into Baltimore to take on the 0-2 at home Baltimore Ravens. 2 ridiculously bad comebacks they allowed in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
One to Josh Allen last week and the other one to Tua and Miami Dolphins the prior week.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is one of those games. Sunday night in Baltimore is a very tough place to play, man. Those fans get out there, they flash the lights out. The Ravens will probably be wearing their all blacks.
Hmm.
It's normally a very, very tough atmosphere to play, but there's one guy I love in tough atmospheres. There's one guy I love in atmospheres like that, and that's Joe Cool, man. Joe Burr. I don't care how weird this sounds. Give me the Bengals on the upset.
I'm actually right there with you. I mean, because for the same reason that you have, Burrow will welcome the Ravens fans being all over him. He's just built that way.
I love it.
And especially with, he's going in there with his guys, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Mixon. I'd like to see Mixon get going, but that's probably with newly built offensive line. They're probably still trying to figure it out, but Mixon's too good to be struggling this long into the season. But the Ravens, that last week against Buffalo, the whole way that Harbaugh tried to phrase that fourth down going for it made zero sense to me, because he said he trusted the defense, so he went for it because he knew if they didn't get it, they'd pin him, at the 2 yard line. But if you trust your defense, you take the field goal, take the lead, you kick it deep, and then expect your defense to stop Josh Allen from getting in the field goal range. So it made zero sense. The play call made zero sense. If it's like 4th and 1, I have Lamar Jackson. What am I dropping back for? You run some RPO, keep the ball in his hand. Hopefully he makes the right decision. It seems simple to me, but I guess, Baltimore wanted to complicate things. And so I think because of that, and, the whole Marcus Peters thing on the sideline with Harbaugh and all that, which, I mean, I don't blame him for getting upset, I guess. But I think Baltimore's kind of teetering right now, because I think they came into this season with a lot of confidence that, you know, getting guys back healthy, that they'd be, one of the top teams in the AFC, and it hasn't gone as well as they thought it would. So we might see even some more infighting with them this week, especially against Joe Burrow and them, because that offense can light up that defense if they're right. Baltimore's probably going to want to blitz Joe Burrow, and I think they'll get burnt several times if they try to do that.
I think Jamar Chase has a great day, man. I
Yeah.
really believe that they're going to try to line Marlon Humphrey up against him 1-on-1. And I think that they're going to think that that's going to be okay. And I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase for 2 big touchdowns in that one. I like the Bengals in this one. I really do.
Yep. I do too.
And last game of the week, when we got it perfect timing, 8:07. I love it. You got the Raiders coming off their first win, going into Kansas City and playing on Monday Night Football versus the Chiefs. This is going to be a lot closer than people think it's going to be. Divisional games in prime time. People think the Chiefs are going to roll. The Chiefs are going to kill them. The Chiefs are so much better. I need to remind you, the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Buccaneers 2 years ago. One of their only losses early in the season was the Raiders in Kansas City. Something about this rivalry, man. Division rivals, constant good games. I think Patrick Mahomes is on a mission this year. I really believe it. Justin Herbert's just as good as you. Oh, you're not going to win the division? Oh, you needed Tyreek Hill? Patty Mahomes let people know he is the sheriff in town in this NFL. I think that the Chiefs win this one. I think Andy Reid has a couple trick design plays to get them a couple scores, but for whatever reason, the Raiders play them tough all the time. 27-24 Chiefs, very close one. I think Derek Carr has a very good game. I think it's a fun Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was encouraged to see with the Raiders, Josh Jacobs really get going, because of like fantasy football. I've had Josh Jacobs like the past couple of years, and he's kind of struggled for me. So it's good to see him be that guy this season, really finding holes in the line, and making positive plays. I do agree with you that Mahomes is. You can tell in his play he's motivated this season to get a second ring, because I think that's something that, once they won the first ring, everybody was like, oh, be easy for them. And it's been a couple of years now. And, Andy Reid as well. I mean, I like Andy Reid. He's a good offensive mind. And And he'll definitely have that team ready to go because, like you said, divisional games, they always bring the best out of good teams. So I'm expecting Kansas City to, look like a well-oiled machine offensively. But I also think we could maybe get a big Devontae Adams game. And, Derek Carr is a guy who, when you want to count him out, he'll come up with like one really good performance, and you'll be like, why can't we see that guy every week? And maybe that's what happens on Monday night. And it could end up being, a little bit of a shootout, but I do think Kansas City wins it. I mean, I'd probably go Kansas City 31-28 to win this one.
I love it. Keith, let me just say thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you following me on different platforms. This is just the beginning of so many big things that we have coming up. Love getting to work with Kyle each week on the show. I think that this will be fun to consistently do each week. Might add a third person to the team, but it won't be the two people that didn't show up tonight. I'll tell you that right now. But I'm super, super happy with how things are going. Wire to Wire, ECG, Sports Empire Network, Spotlight Sports. We're rolling in a lot of different directions, man. If you haven't seen Coffee and Sports in the Morning on the Rewind Sports app, which is on the Roku TV, we got a lot of things going, man. We do. And we're going to start getting these episodes podcasted. So we're going to be able to put them on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. We just want to get the right crew in order for Thursday nights. But I appreciate you guys coming by and listening from YouTube to Facebook. And any final thoughts, Kyle? I really just, once again, fun night talking football with you.
Yeah, it's been fun for me. And I mean, for Keith's comment, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm working with Gene here. Gene's the NFL guy around here. So, when they asked me to do the show with you, I was just ecstatic about it. And I love, our conversation, all that. I feel like we, tackle the NFL as like legit fans of the sport. And I just appreciate, all this, support from the comment section and all that. And yeah, just another fun week with you.
Sounds good. Let's wrap it up. It's 8:12. I know you want to watch your Thursday night football. Let's tune in. Let's tune into this terrible game, Colts Broncos.
Well, just to answer Keith, yes, I will not say that again. I will not make that mistake.
He scarred us in Philadelphia.
I understand.
But thanks everybody for tuning in. Pregaming Pigskin signing out.
All right. Have a good one, guys.